Yep, this video is designed for medical cannabis consumers and legal adults. Enjoy. What is going on, everybody? Today, I wanted to talk about something. It's not something that everybody in the cannabis community does, but if you smoke weed, if you incorporate this herb into your lifestyle, you've bound to run into somebody who does this. I mean, personally, I used to do this, but my rounds of this activity is pretty much over. Now, there's also controversial activities just mixing tobacco and weed, otherwise known as mooking or rolling a spliff. It's been around for as long as I can remember. Literally, I remember my dad smoking these back when I was like 4. But especially if you're just getting into smoking weed, right, and you had no intention of smoking nicotine at all, I would not recommend doing this. It does hit you in a different way. It is more addictive because there's nicotine in it. Obviously, that's chemically addictive as opposed to THC, which isn't inherently addictive. I actually tried this quite recently, but I just didn't like it very much. And, I don't know. I just don't see the point in doing it anymore. It takes away from the quality of the weed, even if your weed is shit, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I used to buy these cigarillos. I used to buy cigarettes when I was younger, when I was in high school. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really do that anymore. I don't like the smell. My girlfriend doesn't like the smell. So I don't really like purchasing those products anymore. Combustible tobacco products, it's not really my thing. Vapes, on the other hand, I do use nicotine vapes, unfortunately. But it's better than combusting tobacco. That's how I see it. So even just the feeling, going back, because I've smoked a couple cigarettes in my time where I've just been vaping, and I just feel different. It just feels tarry, oily. It sticks around. The smells and tastes stay in your mouth. It's just not, it's not ideal. The whole mooking thing, like the mole bowls, where it's like, they mix tobacco and weed. There's a whole subculture, a stoner subculture of that. And, there's people that like put like nicotine oil in their bongs and stuff like that. And I'm just like, God damn, bro, what the fuck are you doing? There's been a ton of stories of people like doing mole bowls and then having fatal seizures, like literal seizures. And they don't stop. I am a firm believer that you don't get higher when you mix tobacco with weed. What happens is, though, you feel dizzy faster, you feel a head rush, because tobacco is an NMDA like receptor agonist. Like, of course, that's gonna happen. It has very high affinity for that receptor, and that's the same receptor that is nitrous oxide affects that receptor as well. Ketamine affects it. DXM affects that receptor. So it's a stimulant, but that receptor is kind of responsible for most dissociative drugs. Um, Most dissociative drugs, personality traits, if you will, are due to that receptor and the kappa opioid receptor and all that. So if you're smoking weed for health issues, definitely don't fucking do this. If you have an addictive personality, same thing, like definitely don't do that. The only thing I could see somebody doing this for is if they already combust tobacco products and they want to get in the weed. But for some reason, the people in my school were very curious, and more people were doing that. Whether it was cigarettes, it was combustible tobacco. That was like kind of a wave. So less than an irony, I guess. People thought it was cheaper than vaping, which it is, but damn. This is kind of exactly what vaping was supposed to destroy. You know what I mean? But it just did not at all. But I genuinely feel now I've seen more people smoking weed than I see people smoking cigarettes, which is good. I mean, I'd prefer it to be that way. I mean, cigarettes, it's not just tobacco, you know what I mean? There's like thousands of fucking chemicals in there. That's been proven too. That's not a conspiracy theory or nothing. That's just a fact. And you could argue that cannabis does have similar conditions when it comes to PGR, plant growth regulators, growth hormones, GMO. But honestly, none of that compares to the amount of actual fucking poison that's in a ton of tobacco products. Unless you grow your own like your own tobacco plants, like I don't really know if you could really obtain the medical benefits of tobacco, from the shit that you'd get from your smoke shop, in all honesty. Because just like anything else, you got to remember that this is a herb, this is a medicine, and it does have its own cures. However, it is used as a pesticide as well, And the only reason it's used as a poisonous pesticide is because of high nicotine content. Uh, I think the earliest, like, like pointed out time when somebody did this, was just making tobacco tea, like in the fucking agricultural era of humanity, right? Like this is a very old thing. And what that is it's not a drink. Tobacco tea is not a beverage. That is just a poison for bugs, basically. It won't kill your plant, but it will kill those fucking bugs. So that's why nicotine is considered a poison. But the ROAs for nicotine, there are safe ways of administering it to yourself. More and more Nic Salt products keep coming out, which is free-based nicotine, basically. It's synthetic, but it's not carcinogenic, which is the problem with most nicotine products, is that it's combusting tobacco, which is, a carcinogen. It's just not good. But yeah, Lucy is another one. It's like nicotine gums, which that's been around for a really long time, but Lucy has more doses to choose from, which I think people like that a lot. Also different flavors, I guess. Products like Zyn and stuff like that also exist. I've tried them before. I'm not a huge fan, but they're okay. It's just you really do get used to them after a while, and it just doesn't really give off the same initial effect as it used to, which I guess is the same thing for everything else, but it's just because of that ROA, I think, that route of administration. It's just, it's much easier for that to develop. Sublingual nicotine, I guess, does that much quicker. But again, if you wanted to obtain the medical benefits and nootropic benefits and neuroprotective benefits, etc., from nicotine, I just recommend trying the gums. I wouldn't recommend to start fucking Chief and Fat Clouds from your vape. Remember, this is a habit that I started my journey with my freshman year of high school, right? I didn't want to do this in my older ages, but it was something that gave me a temporary break from a very gritty reality, that I was facing. And it's total copium, 100%. Like, literally everybody around me was doing it and doing the same copium shit. But fuck it, it is what it is, dude. Like, I'm not ashamed to admit it. Like, I've been clean from alcohol and benzos for like over a month and a half. I'm doing pretty good, dude. I never had a huge alcohol problem, but I mean, definitely I prescribe benzos, and but yeah, pardon me. Those definitely work really well, and that's the shitty thing about them, is that it's really easy to convince yourself that you need one, especially when you have like rebound anxiety from taking one. So that's when you take one the night before, and then the morning after you get anxiety, and benzos have a high affinity for that in people with anxiety disorders. So, I mean, I've experimented with different things as well, and that's kind of what this is all about. That's why I put out content that's dedicated more towards pharmacology and harm reduction and stuff like that, I guess. I really do honestly believe that there's a gray area to every substance. I don't think any substance is truly all bad or all good. You know what I mean? I don't think that exists. I really don't even necessarily believe that we should be fighting to illegalize substances anymore. I think that's a very outdated way to go about doing things here. Because that war on drugs, dude, drugs won. They fucking won, dude. Did you see the statistics, bro? They're fucking sad. I'll put some statistics up, but god damn, dude, look at that shit. I mean, I saw that shit growing up. I saw that shit. I knew it was never gonna work. Because, dude, no child was taking their ass seriously, because they were all saying some stupid shit every single time they came down to my school. One of the talking points they tried to make was you would literally get pregnant for smoking weed or drinking alcohol. No, they wouldn't even bring up alcohol. They'd talk about like pills and shit, and like DXM even. They'd say psychedelics would do that. Just stupid shit. Like really dumb shit. And again, it's a very unified story of youth that experiments with drugs, right? They realize the government's lying to them. They realize DARE's lying to them. Their school's lying to them. Because they are. And then they experiment and experience benefits. And they get deeper. And then they aren't taught how to use it properly. So then they dig deeper into a problem that they can't control. This has been going on for a long time. And they knew that. But they decided to just make the lives of elders, children, and just regular people alike more difficult. Why? Because they fucking can. Because there's money to be made in shit that isn't going to help you. Because it's okay when pharmacies get people addicted, but, when you do it to try and feed your kids, it's a problem. Now, look, I'm not advocating for drug dealers here, but if you're selling weed, then I definitely fucking am advocating for you. That's for sure. Hashtag Last Prisoner Project. I'm all for that shit, but I digress. This is about tobacco and weed and why you shouldn't be doing it. Again, unless you already have both of these herbs ritualistically intertwined into your lifestyle, right? Pretty much every situation other than that, I can't recommend that you go out and do this shit. Especially having done this myself. Ugh. Ugh. Pardon me. I just really don't see any point in it. You have cannabis, which is a beautiful plant. You have your tobacco. Sure, if you want. But realistically speaking, man, those are two different spirits. Those are two different energies. And I really don't think they have much synergy, dude. Like, people mix them because you can smoke both of them. But in reality, if you wanted to smoke something else with your weed, I have so many different recommendations for you other than tobacco. 100%. Blue Lotus, when smoked, is way better than when eaten. 100%. Like, I ate that shit and it fucked with my head for sure. I went dummy stupid off that shit when I was like a sophomore in high school. I was eating like the seeds and shit. I don't really remember the pharmacology of it, but it was like fucked up. I was like not having a good time. Felt like a fucking Benadryl trip or some shit. And I feel like, the first real drug I ever did was like DXM. But no, actually, I guess it was coffee when I was really young. That was like the first addiction I had, bro. I was like heavily, like I needed fucking coffee in the morning. Starting at like fucking fourth grade type shit. Like I was doing that shit at a very young age. Which again, it blows my mind how that was condoned. Because that is a stimulant drug, dude. That is what caffeine is. It does alter your mind. It does alter your body. It's a stimulant drug. That was kind of what got me to, kind of entertain my fascination with chemical relationships with your mind and body. You know what I mean? And understanding that these tools, they come out of the ground, you know what I mean? But yeah, when it comes to cannabis, I'm a very passionate man about cannabis, and I feel like, you shouldn't be abusing its energy. You shouldn't be fucking desecrating its energy. But that's another thing. You do whatever the fuck you want to do. You smoke however you want to smoke it. But that's just my personal beliefs. That's just what I choose not to do with my weed, is to mix it with weed or mix it with nicotine. Sorry, tobacco. I mix my weed with weed all the time, obviously. Pardon me, folks. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about tobacco and weed. Altogether, probably just shouldn't be doing it if you aren't used to consuming both of these products already. Especially if you're just trying to get into weed. That is the most bullshit decision ever, is to start mixing weed with tobacco and start getting into weed that way. Seriously, don't do that shit. That's ridiculous. Like, I can't think of any reason why you should do that. Especially nowadays where there's so much access to weed, you know what I mean? So many ways that you can introduce yourself to it. Now, if you wanted to mix tobacco and weed because you wanted to get higher, here's what I would recommend. There are different herbs that you can mix with your weed to get you higher, okay? For sure, there are. I'll just give you this one. Yeah, Blue Lotus, man. I told you about Blue Lotus already, but Blue Lotus, mugwort is another good one. I know about people that smoke that shit. Again, I haven't done this in a really long time. The main one that I smoke with weed is Salvia divinorum. Now, again, this is not a common thing, but usually weed is good enough for me, you fucking tweaker. Anyways, mugwort pretty much just adds a little hint of euphoric euphoric sedation. You know what I mean? So it's just gonna kind of impact your feeling, your high, I guess, if you will. Mugwort's been smoked. That's kind of just a thing people do. You can do turmeric as well. Some people smoke ginger for added, relaxation, added head buzz, I guess. Some people smoke ginger straight up. I do know about that. But again, if you got some weed, just smoke that shit. Seriously. Your bud don't need a buddy. And with all that being said, I hope y'all have a great fucking day. Stay safe out there.